Here we go, another day. Extant means still existing. Et also is that part of spoiler from Antium, parts of the spoil. Quae relative, which this guy here, Manius, in a suggestu of the forum, it means a raised platform, capped the class A with the fleet of the hostium of the enemy court. He suffixed it there. He put parts of these spores up here on this raised platform. Yet, or nevertheless, if this is a fleet, 4-6 Furent. That's the shortened version of Furent. They were the 4 beaks for ships. Not 4-6. That's 4, and that's 6. Said hic numerous, but this number, to those in the beginning of times, or the beginning or earlier times, this was fuit. This was in naval bellum. So in these early times for naval war, 6 ships with beaks are enough. Nevertheless, the most pervicacissimi, the most persistent of the Latins, were the aquae and volsci furent, and daily hostes, daily enemies, ut sic dixerum. So if I shall call them this sort of thing, he's saying. Sed hos praequipri. But these, especially Titus Quintius, Dom did he tame them, he beat them. He was a dictator from the plough, who, when was obsessed or besieged and almost already captured, the camp, put them together. Actually, now I'll keep them two together. The camp of the consul Manlius, when it was besieged and almost captured, this guy protected it or saved it with his special type of virtue of valor. Medium erat tempus. It was the middle time, forte by chance, of Cimentus, chucking seeds in the ground, basically. They call it sowing, I suppose. When the patrician man, who was in nixum, it's apposition in the accusative, so he was like leaning on his plough, his atro, suo atro, and a lictor, it's an official, deprehended him, caught him in the work itself of leaning over his plough. Then Prefectus, he set out into the Accies, into the battle line. Victos, okay, I usually say divictos myself, the beaten people. So he won. Lest anything he should cease in imitation of his rustic work or his farming work or his agricolic. Is that a word, agricolic work? No, I don't think we have. We'll just call it rustic. His farm work. So in imitation of his farm work, in the way of a flock, probably cattle, he sent them under the yoke, which it stuck, and they still send the beaten people under the yoke later on. Sic expedition finita. Thus, with his military expedition finished, he returned to his boves, his cattle, Rursus again. Here we are, Agricola. The same sort of thing there. So he's a farmer, and he was a triumphal farmer. Fidem numenum, looks like they're invoking the gods, by the gods, or the trustworthiness of the gods, with what velocity he returned. So he was in a hurry. Intra, so it looks like within the quindecim dies, within 15 days, he had coptum and paractum bellum. So he began and finished the war in 15 days. Process usually means absolutely, or from that point on, or going forwards. The dictator Festinacid, he hurried to his relictum opus, to his remaining work, it seemed, videritor. 6. Assiduae viro, usually viro's butt, or you can take the viro bit as like truthfully or indeed, if you want. So the assiduous, continual, and anniversary hostes, looks like they did it every year. Furent again were the vientes from Etruria. Adiavut, to such an extent that an extraordinarium manum adversus eos promisserunt. Basically, they promised to engage in this against this enemy and privately as well, to conduct war, one gens, one family of the Fabori. Okay, that's just all one sentence there. So there was a consistent enemy coming every year, and looks like this one race had some sort of private war against them, and always were against them. Satis in superque, so satisfactorily and above it, this was a suitable disaster. So satisfactorily it was a disaster, and even beyond that it was disastrous. Caesar cut down, I put Cremera, I guess that's a place near there. There were 300 patrician army were Caesar that were cut down. And this was Signat with a Scelerato nomine. So it was given a bad name or a criminal name or something, which the Proficientes, the setting out people into battle, had left from a porta. So those are left by this gate. They're all cut down, and looks like the gate was then named the Scelerato, the bad gate or something like that. Said Eoclades, but this disaster was expiated, was cleansed, you might want to say, with ingentibus victories, with huge victories. After, per alios and alios, against the again and again nature through a different person and a different person, the most robustissima operas, so the most strongest towns were captive through different people, and indeed with various eventus, various outcomes. Falisci surrendered itself spontaneously by its own accord. Fidente was cremated, burned up in ashes with its own fire. Direpti, so pillaged maybe. Fundita was fully and deleted as well. So this place here, where the Vae lived, the Vaeantes, was ripped and destroyed, ripped apart and spoiled. And the Falasque, when it was besieged, mirror est, it's in viewing, you might want to say it's a bit miraculous or marvellous. What's that thing doing there? Okay, so the feeds of the general, so it's admirable sort of thing, was the loyalty or the judgment or something of this general, and neither is it unmerited, because a magistrum of a school teacher, prodator of the city, a betrayer of the city, when he had adduxered his boys, so school teachers led some schoolboys with him. It looks like the general tied him up and sent him back. Okay. How far are we going down to there? Something in the accusative. For he was a vir sanctus, this general was not a holy man, but a respectable man, and he was sapiens, wise, and he knew it to be a true victory, which was done with salva fide. If he was loyal in his manner, so he did not this betrayer, which was, it would be a true victory, what was prepared with integra dignity, so with full honours and good behaving well. He knew that he'd get this victory, victory. Fidenia, because it was non-pars, not equal in iron and steel or in sword. To move to terra, they were armated. These fides were armed with facibuses, which is torches, and with discoloribus vitis. So vitis is a headband type thing. So with different coloured headbands in the way of serpents to inspire terror. In the way of furies, they proceeded or went forwards. But the habitus, probably here means clothing, feralis, compared to this, which is furiously, this is more of a deadly or of funerals. So this was an omen of their eversion, overthrowing or overturning. So their ferialis habitus, so their funeral clothing, was an omen of their aversion. Just before that, I prepared furiala. It must be a substantive made from the adjective avenging, frenzied, mad. because it is also translated as a fury, as a proper noun as well. Okay, so venientum, how much res for it was, how good it was. This res here probably means how strong it means, is indicated by the obsidian, or the obsidian of the besieging of 10 years, or 10-year besieging indicates how good their res was, their circumstances, etc. Tum prime, then it was in the first time, or at the first time, hymatum, some variation of winter, under pelibus, under pelts or under animal skins. It was a hiberna again, taxata stipendia, so there was a winter payment, so it must have been a bit of a stipend, a bit of a bonus for fighting through winter. The miles adductus, the soldiers were led spontaneously of their own accord into iu urende by swearing that unless capta was the herb, they would not reemit. They wouldn't return. They wouldn't remir it unless they captured the city. The spoils from King Late Ptolemy were reportated. They were carried to Jupiter Feretrium, version of Jupiter, and finally, not with scales nor an eruption nor bursting in, but by a rabbit hole, underground tunnel, and subterraneous doluses, which are tricks, per actum. It was done so that the excidium of the city, so the end of the city was done this way. Iadeniqui vis rest, and so finally it seemed the magnitude of the booty looked like so big, so magnitudinous, the booty of the city, of which a decime, a tenth, was mitterented to Apollo I Pythio, to the priest of Apollo, the Python, the oracle, I guess, and, there's the qui, and the universis populus Romanic, all the Roman people were vocatored, were called to the direption of the city, to come and pillage the city. And that's it. So thus, then, that was how Veii was. Now, who is there who would remember it to have been? What is left of it? Or what vestigium is there? What trace is there? The fides of our annals labours it so that we can trust that the Veii was ever such. The end.